Hello, Dallas. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Aisha News special program today. This is your host, Anu, and thank you so much for watching and joining. I hope everyone is enjoying your wonderful weekend. And out of few minutes of your, break time, I would like to invite you to come and join me in conversation with our very special guest today. So, who will be joining us shortly with a very important message for you all. Well, folks, I hope you all had a chance to take your time a little bit out of your busy schedule to go and vote in your, nearest locations. During the early voting. Well, because it's so important for all of us to choose our representatives, especially, with our judiciary system and our judges. So I hope you all agree if I say that, in protecting our, liberties and most fundamental and sacred rights as set forth in the Bill of Rights, judges in courts are the ones that play a very, very prominent role. So, and representing that role, actually, and I would like to introduce today's guest, who got elected as a judge in November 2006 and also has served as a judge for Dallas County Court at Law Number 1 since January 2007. So, she's a four-term incumbent judge, Dallas County Court at Law Number 1 since 2006. And also, so she's one of only four Dallas County judges to have earned a certificate of specialization in civil law from the Texas Center for the Judiciary, State Bar of Texas Presidential Commendation for completion of the certification, as you all know, specialization in civil law. So she's a 2013 graduate of the Texas College for the Judiciary, from which she received her certificate of special, competence in civil jurisprudence. And so let me invite, our judge, and Dallas County Court Law Number Honorable Demetria Benson, and thank you so much for joining. It's pleasure having you on this Sunday afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's pleasure having you because today we are excited to know all about you. And because let our audience know a little bit about you before we go further with our all the information and questions that we may have, and we have a live audience joined on our Facebook page and YouTube as well. So, how about please tell us a little bit about yourself so that our audience will get to know you better.
Okay. I am the daughter of a career Air Force serviceman
Mhm.
and a school teacher. And so as a result of that combination, we grew up, my siblings and I grew up around the world. And I think it informed our worldview on how we see the world and see people different from ourselves. A lot of people don't have that experience because they grow up in the same place with the same people. And by having these worldly experiences and meeting people from all walks of life,
Mhm.
I think that it's made me and my siblings much more open to seeing and meeting other people.
Right, right, right. So that gave you a lot more exposure in a different way than just see the world differently. So that's a great opportunity for you.
Absolutely. I recommend it for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. During our conversation, that you also mentioned that you strongly believe that the courts are for the people, and they will be you will be heard because I mean, like, what do you mean by that and why?
What I mean by that is for many years in the early history of this country, even up to the 70s and the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
people would go to court, but the people that would be on the bench would not be people that looked like them.
Right.
And that's where worldview comes in. That's where perspective and understanding
Mm-hmm.
that people come from different cultures, but it doesn't make them less human, less deserving of respect and dignity in the courtroom experience. And so that's what I mean by that. having people on the bench that, if they don't look exactly like you, may have a worldview that is similar to yours, because they come to the bench with their life experiences that are beyond that of the dominant culture.
Right, right. Well, like we are from state of Texas, and then as we all know that we are a melting pot with different diversities coming from different countries. We have so many different kind of, citizens that we do have in this state. So, I mean, like I know that you said many citizens are unaware of completely the judiciary system of, the country that they're living, or how it works, or where and how and who do they have to reach, with what issues, like there are so many. So why is it so important for citizens to know? Because I know they're already aware of their where they come from, so they're already involved. But being a citizen, I think, I mean, I also agree. So but there must be a very specific reason also, unless you get into this issues, to face that law. So why do you think even after just important for citizens to know about our judiciary system, like already?
Well, in general, I think it's important to know how civics work where you live,
Right.
um, locally as well as statewide and then nationally.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason it's important is because courts touch everyone's lives in one way or another. It may be something as insignificant as a traffic ticket,
Mm-hmm.
or a violation for maybe leaving your trash can out too long, to something as significant as a divorce and perhaps losing custody of your children, or even more significant than that, being accused of a crime and possibly losing your life or liberty.
Right.
So courts touch various aspects of our lives. It can be anywhere from civil, which would be people suing people over money or for injunctive relief;
Mm-hmm.
criminal, where you've been charged with a crime, a violation of the state's law; family, where you have family issues. Maybe you want to adopt a child. That would be something that you could do through the court system, and that you would need to do through the court system. Or it could be that you have a child that has gotten into trouble from being a truant, not going to school when they need to go, or perhaps even being involved in some type of criminal activity. So knowing which of those venues is the appropriate venue and how that venue operates is very important to an informed citizenry, so that you don't, if your child is being called in the truancy court, you don't want to go to the criminal court, because that's not the right place to go. And you don't want to go to the family court. Well, you might want to go to the family court, but you don't want to go to the civil court, because that's not the right place. So knowing what the categories are and how they fit the particular need, I think is essential to helping people feel more comfortable with the system and how it works.
So it is important to know. So is there any specific, place where they can immediately know that, like where I should go? I mean, before even they reach out to a lawyer. Uh,
Unfortunately, no.
okay.
We have a very large judicial system in Texas. Texas is a very, very large state.
Right.
And we have 254 counties.
Mm-hmm.
And each county has at minimum one court. So there are at minimum 254 counties. But the larger the county is,
Right.
the more courts it has. I think we have about 60 courts in Dallas County.
Right.
So that's a lot of courts. That's just in Dallas County. If you needed to know every court in every county, that would be way beyond my capacity to explain. So we unfortunately don't, I'm not aware of any resource where all of those types of things are listed. But what I can tell you is about the hierarchy, and we can start at the top and work our way down.
Okay.
At the top of the state judicial system, we have the Texas Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals. Those are courts of equal jurisdiction. They are courts of final resort. That means they make the last decision. The Texas Supreme Court makes its decisions on appeals from civil trial courts. That includes family courts and probate courts. The Court of Criminal Appeals is the Supreme Court for criminal offenses. That goes from the lowest level of criminal offense to the highest level. So you have that bifurcation there. Underneath our Supreme Courts and Court of Criminal Appeals, we have appellate courts, and those are based on regions. So several counties are gathered together in a specific region, and the appellate courts hear cases from those regions, and they will hear civil, criminal, family, and juvenile cases. And then below that, you have your trial courts, and you have district courts, county courts at law, justices of the peace, and then you even have municipal courts that are courts in various cities. So usually if you get a traffic ticket, it's from the city that you live in,
Right.
or a city that you have gone through whose laws you were accused of violating. Justice of the peace courts are the first level of state type court as opposed to a municipal court. They are part of the county judicial system, and they are set in precincts in various regions throughout the county. After that, the next level of court is the county court at law, which is a court of record, which means basically that we have a court reporter that takes down everything everyone says and maintains all of the exhibits that are presented during the trial. And after that, generally county courts are courts of limited jurisdiction. Dallas County is an exception. I'll get to that in a minute. But the next level of court after the county court is the district court. And that is a court that is a state level court as opposed to a county level court. So now we're invoking the various levels of government. This is why civics is really important in our educational process. You have municipal government, you have county government, you have state government. So you've got your municipal courts, your justices of the peace, your county courts at law, county criminal courts at law, district courts. They're civil, family, criminal, and juvenile.
Right.
And then those are the courts that have cases that get up to the Court of Appeals. Okay. Now, back to Dallas County and why Dallas County is special.
Yes.
There are about 60 counties throughout the state of Texas that have county courts at law that have what's called enhanced jurisdiction. The traditional limit on the amount of jurisdiction that a county court at law has is $250,000. So if you're suing for an excess of $250,000, in most counties, you would have to file your lawsuit in the district court. But Dallas County, our 5 county courts at law, are courts of enhanced jurisdiction, and we have unlimited concurrent jurisdiction with the civil district courts, which means anything that you can file in a civil district court, you can file in a county court. The exception to that is cases involving the commissioner's court. Those cases have to be filed in the district court. So that's kind of an overview. I hope it's not too confusing.
No, it's very clear, actually. I'm glad that you are actually telling this one, because a lot of citizens that, and because we all, they all do not go to, the school system here and learn civic from the beginning. And I think this is a very useful information for them, where to reach out and how to reach out and whom to reach out. So it's extremely useful for, because of course, it will be a miracle if we don't get a traffic ticket. So
it's dangerous out there.
So they probably, that person is the most perfect driver, but which is highly unlikely, because we all face a different, even though you're a perfect driver, someone else will be always sometimes getting us into that situation as well. So knowing this information will definitely help everyone to make the right decision as well. So, well, thank you for taking us in that short journey to explain how the court system, works, and level of court system where. So I hope all the audience will appreciate that one, knowing it. So coming to that one, I want to touch a little bit about you. So, what kind of a judge are you, and what is the nature of your work?
I am a civil judge. That means that I hear disputes where people are fighting over money, or they might be fighting over injunctive relief. Let's say that someone is trying to take something from you without there being an appropriate adjudication. They'll come to the court and file what's called a temporary restraining order. And what that does is the court says, hold on, everybody. Nobody does anything. We're going to maintain the status quo until we can decide the legal disputes that are there. So we hear injunctive, which is what a temporary restraining order is. We hear injunctive relief. We hear medical malpractice, legal malpractice, personal injury, car accident cases. Let's see, business divorce, not family divorce, but when businesses fight one another, breach of contract cases, when the state decides that it wants to take a private individual's land for a government purpose. Those are called eminent domain cases. We hear those.
Okay.
County courts at law have three different types. The Dallas County courts at law have three different types of jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
We have original jurisdiction, which is that up to $250,000 that I was talking about, plus original jurisdiction over eminent domain cases where the state wants to take your property. We have appellate jurisdiction over cases from the Justice of the Peace and Small Claims Court. And so those cases come to us, and we have what is called a trial de novo. Justice of the Peace courts are not courts of record. There's no court reporter there. They're like, if you ever watch Judge Judy on TV,
Yes.
that's what the Justice of the Peace courts are like. They're the people's courts where people go and have their disputes handled. But if they're not satisfied with that result, they can appeal to the county court at law. We have a record. Everything starts over again. And then if they don't like the decision that we've made in the county court, then it goes to the Court of Appeals. So that's our second type of jurisdiction. And our third type is the type that I talked about before, which is that enhanced jurisdiction that gives us the unlimited concurrent jurisdiction with the civil district court. So it could be any type of case. It could be a gajillion-dollar case, or it could be a $500 case, or in our situation, because cases come from the JP court, it could be a $5 case. No, wait a minute. They can't appeal a $5 case. I think it has to be a bit more than that for it to come up to the county court.
Right. So, yeah. And well, it's a very useful information, because I know that we probably, one or the other way that, we need sometimes, like, whether it's a business or any of the civil cases, then yes, it is a very useful information where to and how to reach. So that's a wonderful thing to know. So I'm going to ask you a very kind of like a, fun question, I would say. So
Okay.
because according to reliable sources, like I was thinking, like 50% of the law students are women, and so I don't know, do you think it's a good thing or the bad thing? And why? Any lights on it?
I think it's important that we have women lawyers, because women come to the law with a perspective different than men.
Okay.
And I think women for a long time have been underrepresented in the legal field. But I think we're at the point now where it's a tipping point, and we will have more women lawyers than we do men lawyers. And that's both good and bad. It's good because it increases the perspective of people on the bench, and therefore the opportunities for those individuals that have to appear in a court. The bad thing, though, is traditionally in any field, and so in the field of law in and of itself, when the field becomes predominantly filled with women, the wage level goes down. So that's the downside to it. So what I think is really important is for women to be diversified in their skill set, and to have pliable skill sets that will allow them to access high-paying skilled jobs, and to maintain the income that is attendant to that skilled job without reducing their potential for income based upon the number of women in the field.
Right. Well, yeah, that's really a great way to look at it. Absolutely. So, and like, what is your view on education? I know that there are a lot of people do believe that only the highly educated or graduated people should get a higher income jobs. Or so, do you agree with that?
Well, I think society needs all kinds of people to work cohesively, and for it to work well. Not everybody is intended to be a college professor.
Yes.
Or a lawyer or a doctor, but some people are very good at plumbing. And where would we be as a society without plumbers?
Right.
That's a highly skilled trade that is very important in our society. So I think education for its own sake is essential for every citizen, but training in the area that is most suited to the particular individual's skill set, interest, and abilities is just as important as a higher education.
So the skills play the more prominent role than just higher. Even though with the higher education you can go the other way, but like you don't have to have higher education to, do a skilled, job that's required to make more money as well.
Well, not necessarily. You don't have to have a college degree,
Right.
but you do have to have additional training and apprenticeships
Mm-hmm.
and working with people that know the business. In fact, you have journeymen, you have master plumbers, and those are people, and in all of the trade levels, you have journeymen, which are the beginners. You have tradesmen, and then you have those that are the master level. Those are considered the most skilled at what they do. So the most highly educated and trained in their fields.
So how does the Dallas County supporting in such, bringing in such system in, like low income families and students, because we see a lot of dropouts, high school dropouts and things. So what is your view on that?
Well, I'm not an educator, but what I would say is I think it's important that our schools provide both vocational education as well as higher education. Vocational education, meaning things like shop and home ec and welding and computer technology, computer training, because you can be a computer specialist without going to college. You would just need to have highly technical training in computer skills.
Sure. That's a great thing to achieve, and I guess all the students should be informed that like the skill is the most important thing, if not a higher education is not one of their choices. Well, thank you. I know that the election is not too far, a couple of days away from us, and I think it's important to know that and you we would like you to get reelected for sure. We want you, we want to see you back in there. So tell us a little bit about why do you think the people should vote for you, and give us a little bit of a insight.
Well, I think they should vote for me, number one, because I've done a good job. Because I think it's important that everyone that comes before me is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of whether they're homeless or they're a millionaire or billionaire. I think the purpose of the courts is to provide a forum that is fair to everyone, so that if David and Goliath are fighting, when they come to the arena, there's a judge that's not going to give more credence to Goliath and mistreat David. It's just, I think that that's very important. And I have also found in the time that I've been on the bench, and this started when I first was elected, when I was going through request for orders to be signed, or those would be rulings from the court, that a lot of times that attorneys would come in and they would ask for relief that they had not actually earned, that they were not entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to my coming, the process was they would come down, ask the judge for the relief, the judge would sign off on it, and people were injured by that financially. And by that, I mean, if there's a judgment that's entered against you, it goes on your credit report.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And it stays on your credit report for at least 10 years and can be there for as long as 20. And if you have a judgment entered against you that is not a valid judgment, that impairs your ability to be successful in life. And what I was finding was that the majority of people that were being subjected to these unfair judgments were people of color. And so I put a stop to that and made sure that everybody that got a judgment followed the same set of rules. And I think that that's important even today. And so I continue to do that, because that's the job of the court, to be just and fair to everyone, and to require that parties that are seeking relief meet what we call their burden of proof. In other words, they have to show that they are entitled to all of the relief that they're seeking.
Any specific one for the young voters or the first timers?
They're the future. They may not care now, but there will come a time when they're not young anymore.
Yes.
And when decisions that have been made by those that came before them will impact them either positively or negatively.
Right.
And then there will be a generation behind them. And so those people need to understand that they have a role in maintaining a viable society that we all do. Because if we don't maintain a society that is civil, then people will resort to self help.
Absolutely. So, tell us. I mean, do you want to share some of your? I know that you have involved in so many community activities, and also like on top of your job that you serve on several of those organizations. So share us like few of them that actually we can know about.
Currently, I serve on the board of the Dallas County Dispute Resolution Center, which is an organization that is set up to help individuals that cannot afford mediation or an attorney to have a free mediation by certified mediators. I've served on that board for, gosh, as long as that has been in creation. And
Right.
prior to that, I served on the dispute mediation board. I think that it's important that people understand that mediation is a viable way to have your dispute resolved. Most cases settle.
Right.
Most cases do not go to trial. And many times, I would say, a good percent of the time that a case is filed in a court, it's because someone felt that they were not heard. And so mediation gives them an opportunity to feel heard, to have their say in the dispute. And sometimes that's really all that was necessary. Someone just needed to acknowledge the other person and the harm that had been done to them, and
Right.
maybe an apology. Many
Right.
lawsuits could have been settled with an apology before they were ever filed, but people become polarized in their positions. So mediation helps parties to come before a neutral person and to talk about their disputes and try and work that out. So that's why I think that's very important. And the law requires that we send as many cases as possible to mediation. So being on that board has helped to inform me on how important it is for people that don't have resources to have access to ways to resolve their disputes in less expensive manners.
And also resolve it in a peaceful the solution that
Yeah.
comes out of it. So absolutely, absolutely. So well, that's a great answer, and I really think that everyone should really know that how they can resolve it in those ways instead of just taking it all the way to you know higher levels. So I know that like what we actually discussed, and I hope everyone learned a lot about you, and I hope they will vote for you and get you reelected, because and what is your message to all the voters as a whole? Like I want to hear from you.
Well, I think the most important thing is that you vote. People of African American descent fought and died for the right to vote so that we could self govern or be a part of the governing that oversaw our lives. And I think people make a mistake when they think their vote doesn't matter. If you don't vote, you don't have a say. And if you don't have a say, then those in power can take away any and all of your rights. This
Sure.
country was founded on the premise that um, they didn't want to have a king, they wanted to have self governance. But that doesn't mean that people's attitudes wouldn't like for them to be in charge of other people and tell other people what to do without having to follow those rules themselves.
Right.
So voting is your self determination. So I think it's important that you vote. Of course, I would like for you to vote for me, but it's what's most important is that you vote, because then you have a say in how society operates. You have a say in who the decision makers are. You have a say in understanding how these decisions that are made impact you as an individual citizen in your family and your business.
Yes. And choosing the right representative is like, your voice will be heard easily. And then, what you need is that. And so I think that also plays a very important role in it. And it's a right of a citizen, and it's a responsibility. And I'm sure that, that is another reason that everyone should go and vote. Well, thank you. March 1st, Tuesday, is the actual voting day, if I'm correct. And Folks, if you have not had a chance to vote at early voting, please, please, please remember to go vote on Tuesday. Do not forget. And thank you, Judge Benson, for joining. And I'd like to wish you all the very best. Good luck. And I would like to see you back on that bench one more term, and, with all of your services to the community. And thank you, everyone, for joining, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you so much.
Thank you.